Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Sarah, and I am happy to be with you on this 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. I hope you've had a wonderful day, a safe day, that you got to hang out with family or friends, got to maybe see some fireworks, that you were, safe about those fireworks, because eek, lots of things can happen. If you had to work today, thank you so much for doing that so others could go out and be crazy and hopefully not be too crazy with fireworks. But I actually had to go to the grocery store twice today, and I very much appreciated the people who were working so that I could go for two very silly reasons. At any rate, it's been a bit of a crazy week for myself and my husband. We had an unexpected trip to the emergency room that we did not expect to be taking. I mean, does anybody ever expect to take a trip to the emergency room? It's not like you plan it for Tuesday at 2 o'clock, go to the emergency room. No, that's kind of the nature of the emergency room. So I have had anxiety for a while. It's never been really terribly bad. I take an antidepressant, but I've never been on an anti-anxiety medication. Well, Tuesday, I'd been having more severe anxiety than normal, Monday and Tuesday afternoon, I had a full-blown panic attack, I guess. I mean, I think I've maybe had one panic attack in my life, and that was in junior high, right around the same time that I was diagnosed with asthma. So I'm still not sure that was an actual asthma attack or me just freaking out that I couldn't breathe. Kind of, they would present in the same way. At any rate, my poor hubby, so sweet, did not know what to do and ended up taking me to the ER, and I'm fine now, but it made me think, anxiety. That should be a topic for the Health and Wellness Podcast, because I happen to know a lot of people who have anxiety, who live with anxiety, and especially on a day like today with there are people that have PTSD from combat situations, and the 4th of July can be terrible for them. It can be terrible for pets too, who are just scared of fireworks. But, think of people who have been in combat situations, and the noise of fireworks can really set off that PTSD. So that's a much, more extreme version of anxiety, but it's something that comes to mind on this 4th of July holiday. So let's talk a bit about anxiety. It can often come hand in hand with depression. They're friends. I don't know why they need to be so friendly, but they often can come together. Generalized anxiety disorder is here's an overview from the Mayo Clinic. Because they start out by saying it's normal to feel anxious from time to time. Of course it is, especially if your life is stressful. However, excessive ongoing anxiety and worry that are difficult to control and interfere with day-to-day activities may be a sign of generalized anxiety disorder. It's possible to develop generalized anxiety disorder as a child or as an adult. Generalized anxiety disorder has symptoms that are similar to panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and other types of anxiety, but they're all different conditions. Living with generalized anxiety disorder can be a long-term challenge. In many cases, it occurs along with other anxiety or mood disorders. In most cases, generalized anxiety disorder improves with psychotherapy or medications. Making lifestyle changes, learning coping skills, and using relaxation techniques can also help. So that's a pretty general overview, which is fine. we are going to talk about some of those things, with coping mechanisms. You really do need to figure out, well, what is triggering the anxiety? Is it something that I can actually control, or am I trying to control the uncontrollable? Because that is one of the symptoms of anxiety, when you are worried about things that you really cannot control. What are the ways that, after I've maybe narrowed down what is causing my anxiety, what are some coping mechanisms? And those coping mechanisms can be different for everyone. So if you do find that you have anxiety, or you're concerned that you have general anxiety disorder, you should definitely talk to your doctor. If you have a therapist, certainly talk to your therapist or psychiatrist. Your doctor can recommend, especially depending on your health plan, your doctor may have to refer you to a psychiatrist, but definitely go in and see someone, talk to them. They can determine if you need medication or if this is something that you can deal with by learning coping mechanisms, changing behavioral patterns, etc. So generalized anxiety disorder symptoms can vary from person to person, of course, but they may include persistent worrying or anxiety about a number of areas that are out of proportion to the impact of the events, overthinking plans and solutions to all possible worst-case outcomes, perceiving situations and events as threatening even when they aren't, difficulty handling uncertainty, indecisiveness and fear of making the wrong decision, inability to set aside or let go of a worry, inability to relax, feeling restless and feeling keyed up or on edge, difficulty concentrating, or the feeling that your mind goes blank. I personally do not experience all of those. Overthinking, I can be a classic overthinker. Yeah. Indecisiveness and fear at times. I can not want to make a decision because I have a fear of making the wrong decision. The inability to relax, or that feeling of restlessness, being on edge. Definitely get that when I'm feeling anxious. And that difficulty concentrating, or that feeling that your mind goes blank, that would be a big one for me. I will be asked a question and my mind just, it's like somebody takes the dry erase marker and wipes it right across the board. I cannot think of an answer for anything, just a blank mind. And it's really frustrating because, of course, it always happens at times when, you're trying to have I'm trying to have a serious conversation with my husband. Maybe we might not be arguing, but we're having a difference of opinion, and he'll ask me a question or say something and just whoosh, mind goes blank. Can't think of a single thing to come up with, as a decent answer. Give me a week and I'll have something great. I'll have the perfect answer, or the perfect comeback, or the perfect dissertation on what I was feeling in that moment. There are also physical signs that may include symptoms that may include fatigue, trouble sleeping, muscle tension or muscle aches, trembling, feeling twitchy, nervousness or being easily startled, sweating, nausea, diarrhea, or irritable bowel syndrome, or irritability. And there may be times when your worries don't completely consume you. If you have a milder case, of course, it can come and go like mine does, but you still feel anxious even when there's no apparent reason. And this is what happened to me on Monday. There didn't seem to be really a reason. I just was anxious. My heart was pounding. I had pressure on my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe. No reason that I could pinpoint. For example, you may feel intense worry about your safety or that of your loved ones, or you may have a general sense that something bad is about to happen. Your anxiety, worry, or physical symptoms cause you significant stress in social, work, or other areas of your life. Worries can shift from one concern to another and may change with time and age. When to see a doctor, that's always a good one. Some anxiety, of course, is normal, but see your doctor if you feel like you're worrying too much and it's interfering with your work, relationships, or other parts of your life. You feel depressed or irritable, you have trouble with drinking or drugs, or you have other mental health concerns along with anxiety. And this last one's a big one. If you have suicidal thoughts or behaviors, seek emergency treatment immediately. Don't put it off. Please find someone to talk to. your worries are unlikely to simply go away on their own, and they may actually get worse over time. So try to seek professional help before your anxiety becomes severe. It may be easier to treat early on. Again, that is an overview of anxiety. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the causes of anxiety. We'll talk a little bit about panic attacks, and we'll talk some about how you can cope with anxiety. What are some of the things that you can cope with? Of course, the best thing that you can do is to go to your doctor or your therapist and get coping mechanisms specifically designed for you, but there are some things that you can do to help ease some of that anxiety. As I said, it is time for that first break. Before we go to the break, I do want to talk to you about Care Of. It is a vitamin delivery service that will deliver vitamins and supplements directly to your home. You don't even have to leave the house. It is awesome. If you're anything like me, especially now that summer is here, you're maybe thinking differently about your health. I find I think differently about my health during different seasons, but maybe you're more active, and maybe that gets you thinking about vitamins and supplements. For me, when I go to the vitamin and supplement aisle, it can actually trigger my anxiety. Let me tell you, it is so overwhelming, all the different options, and trying to figure out, do I really need some of these things? Are they going to do what they say they're going to do? Well, Care Of makes that process so much simpler. You just go to takecareof.com and take their 5-minute quiz. It's easy. They ask you simple questions that don't require, algebra or calculus or writing an essay. You just answer questions about your nutrition goals, your health goals, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you need more iron, things like that. Things that are pretty simple to answer. And then they put together a personalized package of vitamins and supplements just for you. Pack that up in great packaging that even says your name on it. Mine all came saying, "Hi, Sarah." And then they come directly to your door. No muss, no fuss. You've got your vitamins for the month. It is really wonderful. Everything is made with quality organic ingredients. You can find out all the nutrition information on their website. And one of my favorite things that they've just started doing is that their packaging is compostable. So your vitamins come in little daily packets. Now, instead of having to throw away plastic every day from those packets, you have a compostable package that is still just as safe for your vitamins and supplements, but they are compostable, so they will not just go in a landfill and languish for years upon years. So you can take care of your own health. You can help the health of the planet a little bit with Care Of. If you're interested, please go to takecareof.com, enter the promo code HEALTH, and for limited time only, you'll get 20% off of your first order. Again, that is takecareof.com, enter the promo code HEALTH, and you will get 20% off of your first order. So we are going to take that break now. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. On this episode, we are talking about anxiety. Before the break, I was talking about some of the symptoms of anxiety, things that you want to be on the lookout for if you feel like you maybe have some anxiety. Causes. What causes people to have anxiety? Well, as with many different health conditions, the cause of generalized anxiety disorder likely arises from a complex interaction of biological and environmental factors, which may include differences in brain chemistry and function, genetics, differences in the way threats are perceived, development, and personality. So chances are good that, this is something that you aren't going to have any control over developing. It's not like you can blame yourself. I have anxiety, but no, you could have a difference in your brain chemistry. It could be genetic. There's all sorts of causes that could induce you to have anxiety. There are, of course, some risk factors to be aware of. Women are diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder somewhat more often than men. The following factors may increase the risk of developing generalized anxiety disorder. Personality. A person whose temperament is timid or negative or who avoids anything dangerous may be more prone to generalized anxiety disorder than others are. That is interesting. Genetics, generalized anxiety disorder may run in families. And experiences. People with generalized anxiety disorder may have a history of significant life changes, traumatic or negative experiences during childhood, or a recent traumatic or negative event. Chronic medical illnesses or other mental health disorders may increase the risk. There are some complications you might have. Having generalized anxiety disorder can be disabling. It can impair your ability to perform tasks quickly and efficiently because you have trouble concentrating. It might take your time and focus away from other activities. It could sap your energy, and it increases your risk of depression. Generalized anxiety disorder can also lead to or worsen other physical conditions such as digestive or bowel problems, headaches and migraines, chronic pain and illness, sleep problems and insomnia, heart health and issues. Generalized anxiety disorder often occurs along with other mental health problems, which can make diagnosis and treatment more challenging. Some mental health disorders that commonly occur with generalized anxiety disorder include phobias, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, suicidal thoughts, or suicide, substance abuse. Prevention. There's no way to predict for certain what will cause someone to develop generalized anxiety disorder, but you can take steps to reduce the impact of symptoms if you experience anxiety. So first off, get help early. Anxiety, like many other mental health conditions, can be harder to treat if you wait. Keep a journal. Keeping track of your personal life can help you and your mental health professional identify what's causing you stress and what seems to help you feel better. Prioritize issues in your life. You can reduce anxiety by carefully managing your time and energy. Avoid unhealthy substance use. Alcohol and drug use and even nicotine or caffeine use can cause or worsen anxiety. If you're addicted to any of these substances, quitting can make you anxious. If you can't quit on your own, see your doctor and find a treatment program or support group to help you. So yes, alcohol can make you feel great for a time, or it can, some people drink and they just get more depressed or more angry, or it can exacerbate a lot of different things. If you have and quitting smoking is no easy task. My brother has not smoked for a little over a year, which is amazing. He started smoking in college, so he smoked for 25 years at least, and recently quit. He compensated with what are those little eggs? The Kinder eggs? He's got this huge bowl of the little toys, but it helped him cope. But, it can cause severe anxiety. A lot of things can cause severe anxiety. So you want to be careful with, what you put in your body, frankly, because you want to be as healthy as possible. So, panic attacks can come along with anxiety, of course, or they can be unrelated, but mine unfortunately came with the onset of, not onset, but after a couple of days of anxiety, which was no fun, let me tell you. So let's just have a quick overview of panic attacks. A panic attack is a sudden episode of intense fear that triggers severe physical reactions when there is no real danger or apparent cause. Panic attacks can be very frightening. When panic attacks occur, you might think you're losing control, having a heart attack, or even dying. Many people have just one or two panic attacks in their lifetimes, and the problem goes away, perhaps when a stressful situation ends. But if you've had recurrent, unexpected panic attacks and spent long periods in constant fear of another attack, you may have a condition called panic disorder. One was good. I really don't wish to have any more. Thanks. I'm good. I don't wish to order the extra panic disorder. Thank you. Although panic attacks themselves aren't life-threatening, they can be frightening and significantly affect your quality of life. But treatment can be very effective. So some symptoms. Panic attacks typically begin suddenly without warning. They can strike at any time when you're driving a car, at the mall, sound asleep, or in the middle of a business meeting. You may have occasional panic attacks, or they may occur frequently. Panic attacks have many variations, but symptoms usually peak within minutes. You may feel fatigued and worn out after a panic attack subsides. Panic attacks typically include some of these signs or symptoms: sense of impending doom or danger, fear of loss of control or death, rapid pounding heart rate, sweating, trembling or shaking, shortness of breath or tightness in your throat, chills, hot flashes, nausea, abdominal cramping, chest pain, headache, dizziness, lightheadedness or faintness, numbness or tingling sensation, feeling of unreality or detachment. One of the worst things about panic attacks is the intense fear that you'll have another one. You may fear having panic attacks so much that you avoid certain situations where they might occur. If you have a panic attack, you should seek medical help as soon as possible. Panic attacks, while intensely uncomfortable, are not dangerous, but panic attacks are hard to manage on your own, and they may get worse without treatment. Panic attack symptoms can also resemble symptoms of other serious health problems, such as a heart attack. So it's important to get evaluated by your primary care provider if you aren't sure what's causing your symptoms. And that is one thing that happened when I went to the ER the other night. They took blood, and I got to pee in a cup. Yay! Which isn't easy when you're having anxiety and you're shaking, but we got it done. So they did blood work, and they did the urine sample to just make sure that there weren't any other underlying issues that were causing that I felt like I was having a panic attack, but they wanted to rule out medical causes as well, and everything came back fine, which was a relief. So, yeah, panic attack, not fun. I definitely don't recommend them, and hope that I don't have another one ever. But if I do, maybe it can be a really, really long time from now. We're going to go ahead and take that second break of the podcast, and when we come back, we'll talk about a few coping mechanisms for when anxiety strikes. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. We have been talking about anxiety, and now we're going to talk about a few things that might help to help ease that anxiety before it can get worse, before it maybe morphs into a panic attack, although sometimes panic attacks can hit without warning. But if you are having anxiety, there are some things that you can do to try to calm that anxiety. The first one is to take a deep breath. And the first thing to do when you get anxious is to breathe. That is pretty common advice. Sometimes it can feel hard to get that breath in because, if you're having shortness of breath, for someone who has asthma, as I have had for a number of years, sometimes when you feel like you can't breathe, then it makes you panic more. So concentrating on your breath is really important. Deep diaphragmatic breathing is a powerful anxiety reducing technique because it activates the body's relaxation response. It helps the body go from the fight or flight response of the sympathetic nervous system to the relaxed response of the parasympathetic nervous system. That's according to Marla W. Deiler, who is a PsyD, I'm assuming that's a doctorate of psychology, a clinical psychologist and director of the Center for Emotional Health of Greater Philadelphia, LLC. So she suggests this practice. Try slowly inhaling to a count of 4, filling your belly first and then your chest, gently holding your breath to a count of 4, and slowly exhaling to a count of 4, and then repeat several times. I've also heard that referred to as square breathing, counting those breaths, counting the breath in, holding that for the same count, and then exhaling for the same count. If anything, for me, it helps. It makes me concentrate on the counting as opposed to concentrating on the anxiety. So that can help. Number 2 is to accept that you're anxious. So remember that anxiety is just a feeling like any other feeling. And by reminding yourself that anxiety is simply an emotional reaction, you can start to accept it. Accepting your anxiety doesn't mean liking it or resigning yourself to a miserable experience. It just means you would benefit by accepting reality as it is. And in that moment, reality includes anxiety. The bottom line is that the feeling of anxiety is less than ideal, but it is not intolerable. Number 3, realize that your brain is playing tricks on you. And there's one quote from psychiatrist Kelly Hyland, who says, "I had seen people having heart attacks and look this ill on the medical floors for medical reasons, and it looked exactly the same. A wise, kind, and experienced psychiatrist came over to the patient and gently, calmly reminded him that he was not dying, that it would pass, and his brain was playing tricks on him. It calmed me too, and we both just stayed with him until the panic attack was over." A person's brain can make you believe that you are having a heart attack when you're really just having a panic attack. Number 4, question your thoughts. When people are anxious, their brains start coming up with all sorts of outlandish ideas, many of which are highly unrealistic and unlikely to occur. These thoughts only heighten your already anxious state. So, for instance, say you're about to give a wedding toast. Thoughts like, "Oh my God, I can't do this, it will kill me," may be running through your brain. Remind yourself, however, that this isn't a catastrophe, and in reality, no one has died giving a toast. I wouldn't think it's very common. Remind yourself that, you can do this. There's also suggestions for asking yourself questions when you're challenging your thoughts. Is this worry realistic? Is this really likely to happen? If the worst possible outcome happens, what would be so bad about that? Could I handle that? What might I do? Questions like that can get you kind of thinking on a rational, logical basis, as opposed to just giving in to that anxiety. Number 5, use a calming visualization. It is suggested that practicing the following meditation regularly will make it easier to access when you're anxious in the moment. So it's suggested to picture yourself on a riverbank or outside in a favorite park, field, or beach. Watch leaves pass by on the river or clouds pass by in the sky. Assign your emotions, thoughts, and sensations to the clouds and leaves and just watch them float by. This is pretty different from what we normally do, right? We tend to take those worries and fixate on them. But I have a friend who even says to just acknowledge that feeling, say hi to it, and then send it on its way. That if you can visualize it going down the river on that leaf, it might help. Number 6, be an observer without judgment. That can be difficult. So one doctor gives her new patients a 3x5 index card with the following written on it. Practice observing thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, judgment with compassion or without judgment. We tend to have negative thoughts when we're having anxiety. You start to think that you're stupid, or you shouldn't be doing this, that you should be able to control this, etc. So be able to observe what's going on and try to do so without judgment. Use positive self-talk. Anxiety can produce a lot of negative chatter. Tell yourself positive coping statements. For instance, you might say, "This anxiety feels bad, but I can use strategies to manage it." Number 8, focus on right now. When people are anxious, they are usually obsessing about something that might occur in the future. Instead, pause, breathe, and pay attention to what's happening right now. Even if something serious is happening, focusing on the present moment will improve your ability to manage the situation. And finally, number 9, focus on meaningful activities. When you're feeling anxious, it's also helpful to focus your attention on a meaningful, goal-directed activity. One suggestion is asking yourself what you'd be doing if you weren't anxious. If you were going to see a movie, still go. If you were going to do the laundry, still do that. A doctor is quoted as saying, the worst thing you can do when anxious is to passively sit around obsessing about how you feel. Doing what needs to get done teaches you key lessons. Getting out of your head feels better. You're able to live your life even though you're anxious, and you'll get things done. The bottom line is get busy with the busyness of life. Don't sit around focusing on being anxious because nothing good will come of that. So if you are able to do those things, those are some ways to cope. If you're finding that, you're having that numbing feeling, or your mind is going blank, or this is happening more and more and it's affecting your life so that you cannot get things done, definitely talk to your doctor. Find out about getting a therapist, find out about seeing a psychiatrist, do all of those things, because the longer you wait, then the sooner you go, the easier it might be to get your symptoms under control. So that is it for this episode of the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July. If you have a 4-day weekend, get out there and enjoy it. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.